Jim won't cancel me and makes me read my contract. So around July of last year, I am coming up on the end of my contract for a big national gym chain that, let's just say, you can visit anytime. So I try and call and get directions to cancel and get a voicemail box that is full. I call their 800 number and am told only the local office can cancel me. I call my bank and ask if I can block auto debit, but because it is a check debit, they can only block a specific amount and there is a fee. I scan my contract and it says I have to cancel in writing with 30 days notice regardless of my contract end date. I am pretty furious at this point because the gym was closed completely due to COVID and I was wasting money. I hadn't been too concerned while my contract was going, but now I just wanted to end my association with them. I write the letter with my membership number, email, and phone number, and send the letter certified with my phone. 2 months later, I notice I am still being charged, and they have billed me an additional $60 for my annual access fee. Now I am livid. I find the customer service email and explain the situation with specific dates of calls, letters, and attempted visits to the office. I ask that my membership be canceled and a refund for the past several months and the annual renewal. I receive a rather curt response saying they will start my cancellation, but I will have one more monthly charge because there is a 30-day notice. I respond asking them to read my message and see that is what I did already by mail. Apparently the local manager has been letting mail pile up as they don't even have someone at the office part-time. No one has seen my letter. I say this to the email rep. She asks me to read my contract and states that even if I can demonstrate the letter was sent, I would still be on the hook for the 30 days and the annual fee. She says I need to read my contract if I have any questions, and I do. Turns out near the end of this very long document is section 20.1, which states the following. Unexpected events, we are not responsible if members cannot use our club because of an event caused by a natural force, such as a fire or a flood, or a road or building closure or something similar beyond our reasonable control. If this continues for more than 30 days, then either you or we may cancel this agreement immediately by written notice. No fee will apply. So, I respond with this new knowledge I have and point out the gym had been closed 90 days prior to my original letter, and even greater than my email cancellation request. I also threaten the following if they don't refund me back to my original contract end date. 1. They'll pay people I know to picket their gym. 2. I will hand out flyers telling people about this provision of the contract so others in the middle of contracts will be able to cancel without a fee. 3. I will publish an article in our local online newspaper about the trouble I have had offering advice to others. And I make it clear that I have all the documentation, including phone statements, to prove it is all true. 3 days later, I was called by a regional director with an apology and a full refund of over $240 that had been inappropriately taken, a little extra. For those wondering, I am sharing this now because I understand many people in California, where the lockdown was more strict, have gone through this, and they deserve to know how not to be abused. And remember, if someone tells you to read your contract, do it.
I want a milkshake, and you better make it right. Hope this fits here. I used to work at Popular Ice Cream Shop and didn't mind hooking a customer up if they asked nicely. It was the customers that were rude, snappy, and demanding that I didn't care for. But they're the customer and I was providing a service. While this isn't specifically aimed towards one customer, I loved when they demanded, for example, I want a milkshake, and you better make it right, because that's exactly what I did, to the very last detail. I pulled out the recipe book and read each step out loud as I meticulously measure every ingredient to the exact serving size stated. I made sure the customer saw everything so they would know I wasn't cheating them. I was also very precise. For 0.1 ounce on a required 4-ounce scoop, let me take the tiniest bit off. When they would say, add more ice cream, make it thicker or something else, I'd inform them that their exact words were, you better make it right, and that I can't make it any better than what the recipe book is telling me to do. If they wanted extra of an item, I would give them the exact amount that is allowed and they would be charged for it. In the end, they got their 100% correctly made item. Might not be exactly what they were hoping for, but it's exactly what they asked for.
Boss told me, if you don't like it, then leave. When I was younger, I worked as an engineer for a small company. The owner, who I'll call Jake, let me know before I started that I would be doing about 10-hour days, 6 days a week for about 6 months, but that I would have to be flexible. Some days they wouldn't have worked for me, and other days I'd be expected to stay a few hours late. This didn't bother me too much, as I wasn't too tight for money, and I didn't mind staying behind a few extra hours occasionally. I got to work, and was told to follow instructions from the owner's brother, Steve. He was an arrogant character who always thought he knew how to do everyone else's job better than them. We butted heads a few times, but nothing major. A few months in, I found a new job starting in a week that paid better. Later on that day, I had another disagreement with Steve. The situation was petty, but it's his response that really confused me. It ended with him screaming in my face, "If you don't do as I say, then you can fucking leave." So I packed my stuff and left. Steve was a little confused, thinking I'd just fall in line. He was too arrogant to apologize, and I had a job lined up. Side note, for people not in the UK, I was working a 0-hour contract. This means I get an hourly wage, but I'm not afforded some labour rights like a set salary, minimum work hours, or notice for dismissal. This works both ways, though, so I can leave the job whenever I want with no notice. I decided to call up Jake, since he'd always been chill, and told him what happened. He told me he needed me and I should just return to work. I told him unless he controlled Steve and made him apologies, there was no way I was coming back. He refused, so I told him I'll send in my final time sheet. 2 weeks later, and I've started my new job. I still haven't been paid for my final week, so I called Jake. He told me that since you didn't give notice for leaving, you owe me for lost product of work. He said if I didn't like it, I should sue him, and recommended I should just take the loss and move on. This was complete BS. A couple months go by until I finally find time to file for small claims court. Few days after sending him notice, Jake paid my money, including court fees and extra. He actually called me up apologizing for the confusion. He wanted to know when I could return to work. I'd heard from one of my ex-co-workers that because of the infrequent hours, people would leave as soon as they were told they wouldn't have worked the next day. Others would leave when they realized how much of a jerk Steve was. They'd gone through about 7 different workers in the time I was gone and struggled to keep anyone for more than a week. I told him I'd think about it. I managed to string him along for a few weeks before he stopped calling me. The moral of the story is that if you think you are being treated unfairly, you shouldn't just put up with it. Your self-respect isn't worth compromising. Don't settle for being treated like shit, especially when you are willing to go above and beyond for them.
I had my employees call and wake up my boss every 15 minutes. I supervised a glass manufacturing department. One night we had an issue with a thermocouple that controls the temperature of the glass. Because it was creating nuisance alarms, the operator disconnected it and forgot to notify the next shift to monitor it manually. We lost control of the furnace for a couple of hours and scrapped product. The plant manager came in that morning screaming and ripped the entire staff a new one. We were trying to explain that the thermocouple needed to be fixed, but instead he continued to yell at us, tell us we were idiots, and told us to monitor it, and notify him every time it went into alarm, or else he would fire us. To further reprimand us, he insisted that we call him at home in the evening every time the temperature went into alarm, so he could ensure we were doing our jobs. What he did not know, and what we knew, was that the alarm for the broken thermocouple happened about every 15 minutes. My operator was worried and asked me what he should do. Since the plant manager was so insistent, I told the operator to wait until after midnight, then call and inform him every time it happened according to his direct request. The plant manager came into work the next morning very bleary-eyed, and sheepishly told us that we did not have to do that again. He finally listened to us, and we got the problem fixed. ELDR, if you are abusive to my people, I will be a total dick.
Check out my other marvelous videos